Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is Satisfactory. We are back with our second episode, and we're working on Hub Upgrade 3, which will allow us to do some more things. But before we do that, we need to find some copper, which is directly out there ahead of us, where those blue circles are on the ground. It's a few hundred yards away. And we're going to have to fight some of these insect creatures. It looks like there are two nests. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then I already have two portable miners, so we'll be able to place them down and collect lots of copper right away. So let's go ahead and trigger these insects to come after us. And then see if we can beat them up. They're going to hit me a couple times, I'm sure. So we got... And that's one set of insects. And now there's going to be another set. So before we go there, let me show you how the healing works. You put the nut in your hand and you just click the button. And it gives you about a half a bar, or whatever you want to call it, half a box of health. I'm not going to use all of it because it's all we have. Now we only have one slot in our hand right now, but eventually you can have multiple slots so we can hold more than one thing and just use the mouse wheel to toggle between them. So here's the next copper node. This is normal, so it's like the metal ones. They're normal nodes and not pure. Hit one. Hit that one once. Hit them again. So they each take 2 hits, so we've got 2 of them. One, and they get stunned a little bit, and then you hit them again. Alright, so we have taken care of both sets of insects. And now we're going to pick up the deposit of copper ore. The deposit is this thing that sits on the top, and then the node is this flat part. The node is infinite. The deposit only has about 20 or 30 units in it, and then you can keep doing this if you want, but instead what we're going to do is throw down a portable miner and throw down another portable miner, and it will dig up copper for us. Meanwhile, I'll come over here. We'll grab these carapaces. We can use them for research later. I feel like I hear more insects, but I guess not. So we're going to pick up this deposit. I always remove the deposits for 2 reasons. One, it will allow us to put the non-portable permanent miner on here, and also by picking them up, you know, I now know, okay, these are 2 nodes that I've already detected. Let's go and grab even some more copper, and we're going to make copper ingots. Okay, so now we're going to have like 100 ingots already. And we can go ahead and grab our iron ore over here. And while we go, I'll pick up some more biomass. We pretty much have no choice but to completely denude wherever you start with of all the biomass, right? You pretty much have no choice because you've got to collect stuff for the future. And we're going to need biomass to power our biomass generators. Okay, so our iron miners are now full because they stop at 100. That's all they can hold. And there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back to our hub where there is a crafting bench. And we're going to create all of the ingots we need to make the wire and the rods. In the meantime, I'm going to deposit biomass. I'm going to deposit leaves, and we also found bacon agaric. I didn't even notice this. This also can heal you. I think better than just about anything. But we're going to want to use some of that for research as well once we have the ability to do research in the molecular analysis machine, which we will get later on. So for now, what you're going to do is just make a lot of ingots in order to make a lot of rods and plates. So we're going to need to be able to make 40 rods which will also give us the ability to make 20 plates, I think, right? Or something like that. No, more than that. Because if we make 20 plates, what is it, two out of 3? I can't remember. Let's just go ahead and do a bunch of the ingots. Alright, well now we should have enough. Let's do 20 plates. And that's done, and now we're going to do 20 rods. We have just enough. Okay, so we have enough rods, and now we're going to make copper ingots, which will allow us to make wire. And then we're going to make more than enough for 20, because wire, in addition to being wire, you can wrap it with rubber, I guess, to make cable. And it is the wire that's used to make power poles and other things, and the cable that's used to make the power lines that connect the power poles. Alright, so let's go ahead and make our wire, and you'll notice as soon as we start making wire, we get the ability to make cable. Each one iron ingot makes 2 wire, so it's actually quite it's quite efficient to make. And then did I say each iron ingot? Each copper ingot, and then each 2 wires makes a cable. So if you do the math, each ingot makes 1 cable, right? You just have to make the intermediate of wire as well. So we put our materials into the hub, and we upgrade it. And what you're going to see now is the hub is going to start getting stuff on the inside. We now have, this interior room was empty before. We now have furniture.
Feature, limestone. New buildings and recipes, which can be found in the build menu and craft bench respectively. 8th objective, complete hub upgrade 4. Note, use power poles to expand the power network for optimal results.
Okay, so we got new buildings. Everything new is marked new. We have smelters and constructors, which can now produce materials automatically, and we now have power poles as well as power lines. Now for the power pole, which I'm going to put on 1, that's normally where it goes. They usually default to that, but I had already used the 1 button to show you something. Power poles require concrete, and they require wire and rods. So we're going to need to make some wire and rods. I am on the wrong thing. So let's go ahead and keep going. We can also make screws now out of the rods, and we will need to make lots of screws in the future. But let's go ahead and make a bunch of copper ingots. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this here. I'm going to make all the copper and iron ingots, and then I will bring you back when we're ready to start getting some concrete found and discovered. I will be right back. Alright, I've made a bunch of ingots. I don't want to cut out too much of the manual crafting, because I want you to see it so that you can see the difference between that and what happens when we have everything automated. But let's go ahead and make some wire. There's really no reason not to turn every single copper ingot into wire, because at this point in the game, not true later, but at this point in the game, it's the only thing you can make with copper ingots, so you may as well go ahead and convert it all. Right, so we're going to go ahead and turn all of this into wire. There is a reason to hold on to iron ingots, because sometimes you don't know whether you need plates or rods, and if you make a whole bunch of rods and then it turns out you need plates, you got to go get make more iron ingots. Now we're going to make some cable. We have enough of that now, and I'm going to make some rods and some plates, but I'm going to leave some iron ingots in case I need to make other things, you know, in case I need to make the other resource. So if I need to make plates and I don't have any ingots and I've made too many rods, then we have a problem. Now the other thing I want to do is go to the workshop, which is over here, and we're going to make 2 more portable miners. And we're going to put those on the limestone, which is what we're going to use to make concrete. So we've got our portable miners. We need to make sure we've got our trusty Xenozapper, and somewhere in the distance we are going to find limestone. And that is the closest one, it looks like. 370, 247, 285. So 247, that's the closest. Let's go ahead and ping it again so we can see it. Straight ahead. This is our iron ore. So straight ahead is our limestone. Let's ping it again so we can take a look. There it is. You see the blue circles. And there are more insects protecting this. Alright, so let's trigger them. They're triggered by proximity. Stunned that one. Let's see if we can get him. Okay. Got two of them. Where's the last guy? So one of the things with this tool is, this sort of weapon, is it can do 2 strikes and then there's a pause. Even if you keep clicking on it, it won't do any more. So you have to kind of be aware of that. So here's our limestone. We can pick some up. Out of the deposit. The deposits are always pure, but the limestone itself is normal. Oh, look, there's a second deposit on here, so we'll grab that. And then the node is a normal limestone node. So we have tons of limestone to start with, and then we are going to put our portable miners on here and let them collect more limestone for us, because we're going to need to make tons of concrete. And look at this, there is an ocean or a lake right here, which is pretty cool. You can swim in this game, it's very slow. And the problem with swimming is you can't use weapons, and you can't do any building or anything while you're in the water. So I find that really frustrating. In Ark, at least you could build while you're underwater. So sometimes, like, if you fall down and you can't get up, one of the things that sort of drives me nuts about that is I could build my way out of it if I have foundations, but it kind of doesn't let you. And I find that a little frustrating, but that's just the way the game is. Alright. So now we're going to head back to the hub. We've got a bunch of limestone, and with that we can create concrete. And with that, we can eventually start building foundations and walls and other things like this. And I'm gathering lots of wood here because we're now going to definitely have to start using our biomass, because we're going to start powering our smelters now that we actually have the concrete and materials to make smelters and to make the power lines. So let's come in here, and we're going to make concrete. Now it takes 3 limestone to make a single concrete. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 smelters down, one for making copper ingots and one for making iron ingots. And that is going to be the beginnings of our production, guys. Our actual automated production. I want to ditch the carapaces that I have because we're going to need them later. And the wood is really good for burning biomass, but I think we're going to start with leaves. So let's see. We have our metal deposits over here, our iron. And we're going to go ahead and put our smelters right near here. Now we're going to eventually move everything. But for right now, we're going to put our smelters here, and I'm going to aim them toward the node. And the reason is that eventually we're going to get conveyor belts and an automated miner, and we're going to belt the iron straight into here. But for now, we're going to need to just manually put it in. There is a power pole, and then we're going to connect a cable. So what you do is you press 2, you aim it at something that can take a cable, you click, and then you aim it at something else, and it connects them. You can also start the power line and then move it, and if there isn't a power pole, it will generate a power pole that is connected by a cable for you if you want. But before we do that, let me see where else I want to put power poles. Our copper is over here. So we're going to put a second smelter down by the copper. Like that. And we're going to put a power pole next to it. And connect. Right? You can see this area here with the little sort of little fan fold section. That's where they connect. And then you also need to set the smelter, which I forgot to do on the other one, to tell it what to make, copper ingots in this case. And then we need to connect the power. So now I'm going to bring the power back. And see, this creates the wire as well as the pole. And there's bacon agaric, which we will grab. And then we'll bring it back. Oh, we're out of rods. You see, that's why you have to make sure you make everything. So we need rods to make these power poles. And I think we have enough concrete, so we shouldn't run out of that. But we do have ingots, so we'll go ahead and make some more rods. Now you might be asking, why not make more smelters? Well, right now we can't power too many of them. And the reason is that this thing, which I'm going to put a pole here to connect it, this thing can only generate 20 megawatts of power. And so it's not able to generate enough power to run multiple smelters. Now, why did I do that instead of just connecting them directly? The reason is that there's going to be a second biomass generator that's going to be added to the hub right here, and it can't connect to the first one. They only make one connection, so they can't connect to each other in series. So you're going to have to connect it to its own line, so I'm going to have to connect it there. So now all we're going to need to do to start things up is to set this smelter on iron, right? And then we're going to have to add iron to it. But we'll set this smelter on iron, right, to do iron ingots. And then all we have to do to power it up is to set up the biomass generator. I want to show you a couple of other things, though, before we do that. Let me go ahead and grab the ore. You see this long vertical flashing red pole? That's telling you it doesn't have power. Once you give it power, it will become yellow, saying, I have power, but I don't have any materials to smelt. And then once it's smelting, it's green. Okay, so let's go to the biomass furnace here. We have to grab our leaves. These things are going to burn out really fast. It's only going to last a few minutes with just these leaves. But let's get it started. Okay. And then we're going to go back to our smelter, which should now have power. And if you press E when you're touching a power pole, it shows you it's got 20 megawatt capacity and it's not using much. So now this thing is uses 4 megawatts, and now it is actually using that power. So you can see that we're now using 4 megawatts out of the 20 that we have. And it's going to just make iron ore for us, iron ingots for us. And so all we have to do is just every so often load it in. So you can see it puts out 30 a minute, uses 30 a minute. So if we load 100 of them in here, in 3 minutes we come back and it's all done. Now meanwhile, this copper smelter needs copper. You can see that it's yellow flashing, right? I don't have materials. So if we put iron in here, it won't work. We've got to get copper. And I'm actually going to move, I screwed this up, I'm going to move the copper here to the other node because it's closer. And we are going to give this one copper. Right, and so now, at least in terms of converting the ore to ingots, we now have the ability to automate that part. You can see we're starting to pollute this beautiful new world. We can automate that part as long as we have biomass. So I'm going to need to collect a lot more biomass. But we can automate that part so I don't have to make ingots anymore. Right? I can just let the machines do it. I'm going to have to keep reloading the biomass furnace. I'm going to have to keep reloading the ore by hand, but at least we're now automated. Let's go ahead and save the game. Right, so we're starting. We've got the very beginnings of a factory now. So let's see what the MAM wants. What the hub wants, rather. Sorry. The hub now wants cable, concrete, and metal plates. Now we have the concrete already, and we almost have all the cable we need, so we can make some more of that. And this upgrade will give us conveyor belts, conveyor poles, and an inventory slot. Now the other thing we could potentially make is a constructor. And what a constructor will do, if you have reinforced iron plates and cable, and you make a constructor, you can take, say, the iron ingots, deposit them in the constructor, and then they'll make rods or whatever for you. Now we don't have enough to power lots of constructors, but we have enough to power maybe 2. So let's go ahead and see what we need. We need to make reinforced iron plates, and you can go over here, right click, and add to your to-do list. We want to make 2 of them, right? So to do that, we're going to need iron plates and screws. So let's make some screws. And now we can make 2 reinforced iron plates, and you'll see them get crossed off the to-do list. And now we just need some cable. And we need a little bit more. And we now have the ability to make a constructor. So now we can come over here, because we're going to be making an assembly line, right? And the constructor is going to be coming, like the materials are going to be coming out of the smelter, and if you hit the control button, it will line it up for you. So now we're in a straight line from the smelter to the constructor, right? And you can set the constructor on making whatever you want. So let's say iron rods, and there's a power line right here, so we'll connect it up. And now all it needs is ingots, so we can come here and grab the ingots, right, and put them in here. And now it will automatically make rods for me. I don't have to manually make rods anymore. I'm going to have to manually make plates and screws, but I don't have to manually make rods, and I don't have to manually make iron ingots or copper ingots, right? So now the constructor is going to make 15 rods a minute, and it'll just make rods for us, right? Now we're going to have to manually make plates, and I probably should have put this on plates since we need that for our next hub upgrade, but you get the idea, right? So let's stop this, actually. Take the rods out and switch it to iron plates and turn them on. Put the ingots back in. The reason I defaulted to rods is because rods are used to make screws, and I figured, okay, we're going to need more rods because we've got screws to make, but no, it turns out we probably wanted to make plates. Right, and I'm going to speed things up by making some plates myself, and I will bring you guys back when we have enough plates to upgrade our hub. Alright guys, we are about there. I think the next load is just about going to do it. Yep, we just got it. One of the things you do have to do is keep loading stuff in manually. Once we have an automated miner and conveyor belts and enough power to run them all, then we won't have to do quite so much running around. But until then, got to do a lot of running around. Oh, I need to grab the ingots out of here and place them in there. And we have even more plates now, so we can go ahead and do the next hub upgrade. And this upgrade is going to give us the conveyor belts and more inventory slots. So as you can see, right now we have 2 rows. Eventually you get like 6 rows of inventory, which is quite nice and quite convenient. So let's upgrade the hub.
Congratulations, you have unlocked building, conveyor belts and poles. Inventory, additional slots. Ninth objective, complete hub upgrade 5. Note, portable miners cannot be connected to conveyor belts. Advice, when planning the construction of buildings, note the placement of conveyor belts.
And one of the things you're going to see in this desert is we're going to start running out of biomass really fast. There's not a huge amount of biomass here. And so we're going to have to eventually run far and wide to try and get some more leaves. And the wood is pretty good, but I'm trying not to use it too much at this stage, because what happens is, instead of putting raw leaves and wood into the reactor, you can eventually compress it into biomass, and the wood compresses into a lot more biomass per wood than the leaves do. So it's much more efficient to try and convert that wood to biomass. So I try to like burn the leaves directly and then convert the wood to biomass when possible. It's also very rare to get this much wood without a chainsaw, because usually you have to cut trees down for that. But it turns out that in this particular area, we have quite a lot of wood just laying on the ground. And there's a river. Pretty cool. Now these berries, in the original version of the game, I don't think they respawned. Now, I think if they're far enough from your base, they do respawn, the beryl nuts and the berries and the other fruit. But you're going to see, as we get into 2 biomass burners and stuff, it's going to be very difficult to keep them all running. There is another iron deposit, another iron node, right here. And this is also a normal node. So yeah, sometimes you just have to go spend some time collecting biomass. And this also gives your machines time to create stuff for you, so that by the time you come back, it looks like there's another limestone deposit there, another limestone node there, and more iron there with defenders. I'm not going to play with that right now, because we don't even need the ones we have. So let's grab this deposit, and I will put that into the smelter. There we go. And we'll head back. So we got a lot of iron right here, so this will probably be some sort of an iron factory for us. You can see the smelter's yellow. It's telling us it's at capacity and it can't do any more. So there we go. Don't need that. And this thing is going to need ingots, and we take the plates out. And now that we have rods and plates, what we can do is make a conveyor pole, and then a conveyor belt. And now what's going to happen is the ingots are going to be taken from the smelter directly into here, and I'm not going to have to manually feed that anymore. It'll just keep going. So I'm going to manually feed the smelter, but I don't have to manually feed the constructor. Meanwhile, let's go and throw in some more biomass into the burner. Okay, so we've got some more of those, and we've got a bunch of wood, which is good. And I'm going to just keep saving that in here. You can see that for our inventory, we now have almost 2.5 rows instead of just 2 rows in one slot. Our next hub upgrade will give us a storage container and the automated miner, but can't get too excited about that because we're going to need more energy, more biomass converters before we do that. We use that. And then we get the ability to make biomass and hub upgrade 5. So for this, we're going to need concrete, we're going to need cable, and we're going to need rods. So now what I'm going to probably have to do is switch the constructor to making rods. So we'll take these plates and turn it off. You don't really have to turn it off. I just do. Turn it back on. And now this thing is going to start running out of ore. So let's go ahead and add some more ore. In we go. And now you can see we're using 8, where we can use up to 12, so I can build one more thing. And I think what I'm going to do is build another constructor. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and tell it we want to do that. We need cable, we have cable, and we need reinforced. So we're going to need to make a little more cable to connect. And we're going to make some screws. And then once we can make 2 reinforced plates, we're going to make them. And then we're going to make one more constructor. And that's going to be where our copper is. And we'll put our constructor out here by the copper. See if we can line it up. And we're going to tell it make wire. Now, it can either make wire or cable, but to make it make cable, you'd have to be putting wire in, so you would need another constructor set up in series. Then we're going to put a conveyor pole right there. Well, I don't know. We may not need a conveyor pole with this one. The last time I did it because it was going to clip the ground, but with this one you don't have to. So, oh god, these guys are back. So that means we got to fight them again. So they do respawn. Eventually, once you have enough powered buildings and enough buildings in general, they should stop respawning. But this thing wasn't powered, so it doesn't count if it's not powered. I always try to chase the ones I hit once, because they get stunned. And now we need to heal up. They get stunned and then you can kind of give them a second shot. So we're pretty well healed there. And now we can go and grab some copper. And put it into the smelter. And now the smelter is going to put wire into the constructor, and then I'm going to change this connection here and take that wire down. And then connect this like that, and now it's going to make wire for me. Right? And this makes 30 wire a minute. So now we've got wire being made, we've got ingots being made, we've got this constructor going, and we don't have to make rods by hand, we don't have to make iron or copper ingots by hand or copper wire by hand anymore, as long as we keep loading the miners, the smelters. And so now with everything running, we're using 16 out of 20 megawatts. So we're right near the cap of what we can do. Okay. Let's see. We should be able to grab rods now. And we can make some cable. And we can begin depositing this stuff into the hub. We're very close. We just need some more limestone, which I think was over there, right? By that plateau? Yeah. Let's keep collecting biomass along the way. I don't know if the leaves respawn. I think they do not. Okay, did I get lost? Where's the limestone? Right in front of me, right? And this we're going to want to put a miner and a constructor on as well. Limestone. There it is. Ah, okay. So let's grab both of these. And if we look back to the hub, so the limestone is almost due west of the hub. That'll help me remember. I have a very bad sense of direction inside video games. Not in real life, but in video games, definitely so. Now you might wonder what happens if we run out of power. Well, all of the machines just stop. That means the respawning might happen, but nothing really bad happens. It just all stops. And then when you, then you can just put more fuel in and it'll restart. Right? No problem. So I think, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make this concrete and cable. And then we are going to... Yep, these guys have stopped. And they ran out of power. Yep. Alright. So, no problem. We're just restarted. So I guess at this point, unfortunately, we're going to have to start using wood. Because there's just not a lot of leaves around here. So let's grab 100 wood. And put it in here. And we can pull the rods out of here. And we can pull the wire out of this constructor and give the copper more ingots, more ore to make ingots, right? And one thing you can see is this is full. This is spit out as much as it can, so then the conveyor belt just kind of stops, right? And it can only go as fast as the conveyor belt can be removed. Can remove this stuff from it, right? So in other words, if the conveyor belt is stopped, then everything just builds up inside the smelter. And early on, you can often find yourself unloading ingots and just manually doing wire and things like that because it's faster. But eventually, we won't have to do any of that manually because we're going to be able to automate it all. So let's make our cables. We need to make 17 cable. There we go. And concrete. And we need to make 6 concrete. We're going to need more than that, of course. But that is enough to get our next hub upgrade. And what you're going to see now is there's this platform on the top. And that platform...
You have unlocked Building Miner Mark 1. Building Storage Container. Hub feature Additional Biomass Burner. 10th objective. Complete hub upgrade 6. Note. There are no notes.
So now we're on our own.
To ensure full mastery of skills and equipment, I have been asked to not interfere with this last objective. Good luck.
Okay, so now there's going to be, there's like the beginnings of a platform on here, and eventually a spaceship is going to come down, like a little shuttle, and we're going to be sending resources up into orbit instead of using resources to build the hub, right? And so the last thing we're going to need is going to be wire, concrete, etc. So we now have the ability to run another biomass burner. And this is why I built this thing here, so we can connect it. And now we have 40 megawatts. How's our wood doing? We've already used 25 of it. So now we have 40 megawatts. Now what we can do is add a miner, right? So let's do that and automate this. We're going to want 2 of them, one for copper, one for iron. So we need portable miners, we're going to need some concrete, and we need iron plates. And we're going to need some cable as well to connect it all up. So let's make the concrete. At Then I think after this, once we have it hooked up, we will stop. And we'll make some cable. And we have portable miners already on site. So we're going to make a power line to put next to the miner. We're going to pick these guys up. And then we're going to put down our first automated miner. We want to aim it at this thing. Like that. We're going to power it. Why is this not... Oh, it's already powered. Never mind. And now we're going to take a conveyor belt and run it to the smelter. And now there is a continuous feed from the mine, from the node, into the smelter, into the constructor. And so this will never stop, essentially, as long as we have power. Okay. Now we want to do the same thing over here and build a miner on this thing. So let's pick up the portable miner. We can go ahead and throw the copper in here. We don't need that extra one. And now we will put the miner on here, and just to line it up as best we can. And now we will get a continuous feed of copper ore going into the copper smelter. And if we look at our power consumption, we're now consuming about 30 megawatts. Alright, and then the last thing to do is to build storage containers by the hub and belt everything into the storage containers. But I'm not going to do that yet because I think we've gone long enough. I'll be back with another episode shortly. Until then, I am Scrapalock, and this is Satisfactory.